Stop. Whatever you're about to dump on your garden, put the bag down. Because here is what nobody in the gardening industry will say out loud. 87% of the amendments you're mixing into your soil right now are locking each other out, not feeding your plants, fighting each other. You are spending money to create a chemical traffic jam 6 inches below your feet, and the $14 billion fertilizer industry is counting on you never figuring out why. But here's the paradox. There is a sequencing method older than agriculture itself, older than civilization, running silently inside every old-growth forest and every untouched prairie for over 10,000 years. That makes every one of those bags irrelevant. Nature solved soil fertility before humans existed, and then we forgot the order. This is not about what you add, it's about the order you add it. Change the sequence, and soil that hasn't produced in years wakes up in a single season. I've watched it happen. Researchers have documented it, and the method costs absolutely nothing, which is exactly why you've never heard of it. Welcome to Beneath the Roots. Let me describe what most gardeners do every spring, and I know because I did it for years. You go to the store, you buy a bag of compost, you buy bone meal, maybe some wood ash, maybe some rock dust, maybe some kelp meal, because a guy on the internet said kelp meal was the answer. You bring it all home, dump it in a wheelbarrow, mix it together, and spread it across your beds. You just made a cocktail, and that cocktail is the single most expensive mistake in backyard gardening. Here is what's actually happening underground when you mix calcium-heavy amendments with phosphorus at the same time. They bind. Calcium grabs phosphorus and forms calcium phosphate, a compound your plant roots physically cannot absorb. It is locked, done. That $20 bag of bone meal you just spread, it is now concrete powder sitting in your topsoil doing nothing. But it gets worse. When you add uncomposted organic matter and minerals simultaneously, you trigger what soil scientists call nitrogen immobilization. The raw carbon in your organic matter pulls every available nitrogen molecule out of the root zone to fuel its own decomposition. Your plant's yellow. You think they need more fertilizer, so you buy another bag. This is not a bug in the system. This is the system. Picture this, and I want you to really see it. Every nutrient in your soil has boxing gloves on. Calcium slugs phosphorus. Nitrogen wrestles carbon. Potassium locks up because magnesium blocked the door. Iron chokes out manganese. The pH swings wild, every amendment canceling the one beside it. Not a buffet, a brawl. A chemical deadlock where nothing reaches your roots. And the cruelest part? Your soil test next spring will show the nutrients are technically present. They're there, in the ground. They just can't reach the plant. So you'll conclude you need more. A stronger formula, a pricier blend, and the cycle deepens. And every single all-in-one fertilizer bag on the shelf is designed to recreate this exact deadlock. Because a product that works once doesn't build an industry. A product that almost works, that gives you just enough hope to buy it again next season, that's a business model. Industries built on recurring revenue cannot promote methods that eliminate recurring revenue. So they teach you the cocktail method. Mix everything at once, make it complicated, make it feel like you need their ratios, their proprietary blends, their specially formulated trace mineral packages. But here's the thing they never tell you. Soil doesn't need ingredients. Soil needs a sequence. What I'm about to show you was not invented by any company. It was not patented. It was not sold at a garden center. It was observed in the wild, in ancient farmland, in forests that have been feeding themselves for tens of thousands of years without a single bag of 10-10-10. In the Amazon, indigenous farmers built terra preta, black earth so fertile it regenerates itself centuries after the civilizations that created it vanished. Researchers studying those soils found the same pattern: biological activation first, mineral loading second, a protective canopy layer third. Old-growth forests run an identical sequence every autumn. Leaf litter feeds fungi, fungi unlock minerals from bedrock, and the canopy above seals the cycle shut. This is not a gardening trick. It is the operating principle of every self-sustaining soil system on Earth. The principle is almost embarrassingly simple. Biology first, minerals second, protection third. 3 stages, in that order. Skip a stage or swap the sequence, and you're back to the cocktail. Back to the deadlock, back to the store. Let's break it open. Stage 1, the wake, biological activation. Before you add a single mineral, before you even think about compost, your soil needs one thing: living biology. Microorganisms, fungi, bacteria, the digestive system of the earth. Most garden soil, especially soil that's been hit with synthetic fertilizers for years, is biologically flatlined. The organisms that are supposed to break down nutrients and shuttle them to your roots, they're either dead or dormant. And dumping minerals onto dead soil is like setting a banquet table in an empty restaurant. The food is there. Nobody's coming to eat it. Nobody's there to serve it to your plants. Stage 1 is the wake-up call. You activate microbial life using simple biological triggers, things that already exist in your environment. I'm not giving you a recipe. I'm telling you the principle, because the principle is what the industry hides behind complexity. Microbial life activates in the presence of simple sugars, moisture, and aeration. That's it. This is not a suggestion, it is a biological law. Simple dissolved carbohydrates are the signal, the chemical flare that tells dormant bacteria and fungi the feast has begun. Moisture is the highway, aeration is the green light. When all three converge, dormancy ends and multiplication begins. There is no amendment on any shelf that replicates what this signal does for free. When you pour a diluted solution of simple sugars across your soil and keep it moist, what happens in the first 72 hours is staggering. Bacterial populations can double every 20 minutes under the right conditions. Fungal hyphae, those white threads you sometimes see in healthy forest soil, begin extending within days. Mycorrhizal networks start forming connections between root systems, building the underground internet that healthy ecosystems use to share nutrients across entire plant communities. You are building an army, an unpaid, self-replicating, permanent workforce that does one job: convert raw minerals into plant-available food. And unlike synthetic fertilizer, this workforce doesn't wash away in the rain. It grows, it adapts, it gets stronger every season. This is the step that the fertilizer industry cannot monetize, because you're not buying a product. You're waking up what was already there. You are restoring the original operating system of the soil, the one that ran flawlessly for millennia before someone figured out they could charge you to replace it with a bag. But here is what is critical. You do not add minerals yet. If you dump rock dust or wood ash onto freshly activated biology, you overwhelm the system before it has established. The organisms are awake but not yet entrenched. They need time to colonize root zones, form networks, build the fungal highways that will later transport nutrients directly to your plants. Give stage 1 its window. Let biology claim the territory. Then, and only then, do you move to stage 2. Stage 2, the fuel, mineral loading. Now your soil is alive. The microbial workforce is in place, hungry, and multiplying. Now you feed them the heavy stuff. This is where your wood ash goes, your rock dust, your crushed eggshells, your aged compost. All those amendments you used to dump in one pile and mix together, they enter now after the biology is established. And the difference is night and day. Here is why the sequence matters. Rock dust, for example, is full of trace minerals, silica, calcium, magnesium, iron, but in their raw mineral form, plant roots cannot uptake them. They are locked in crystalline structures. In the cocktail method, they just sit there, expensive gravel. But when you lay rock dust on top of biologically active soil, those billions of microorganisms you activated in stage 1 begin producing organic acids. These acids, citric acid, oxalic acid, carbonic acid, dissolve the mineral surfaces at a molecular level. They chelate the minerals, wrapping them in organic compounds that plant roots recognize and absorb. Your microbes are not just eating the minerals, they are translators, living, breathing translators that take raw stone and convert it into the only molecular language a root tip can understand. Without the translator, the mineral is noise. With the translator, it becomes food. That is the law of the sequence, and it cannot be shortcut, skipped, or sold in a bag. The same principle applies to wood ash, to bone meal, to every calcium and phosphorus source. That would have created a deadlock in the cocktail method. When biology processes these minerals sequentially rather than simultaneously, there is no competition, no lockout, no brawl. Imagine it like this. Picture a time-lapse of roots hitting the activated layer for the first time. The roots don't just grow, they explode. They branch laterally, sending out feeder roots in every direction, because the mineral signals in the soil are finally bioavailable. For the first time, the table is set, the food is ready, and the guests have arrived in the right order. That is the explosion that the cocktail method makes impossible. And once the microbial workforce has processed the minerals into available forms, your soil reaches a state of sustained fertility, not peak and crash like synthetic fertilizer, sustained. Because the biology is still alive, still working, still converting raw minerals into food every single day. Stage 3, the roof, protection and stabilization. You've woken the biology, you've loaded the minerals, now you lock it in. Stage 3 is the simplest and the most neglected. It is the roof on the house you just built. Mulch, organic cover, a physical layer on top of the soil that does 3 things at once. It regulates soil temperature, so your microbial populations don't crash in heat or freeze in cold. It retains moisture, so the biological processes you activated in stage 1 don't dry out and go dormant again. And it slowly decomposes from the bottom up, continuously feeding the topsoil layer with fresh organic matter. This is the stage that turns a one-season fix into a permanent system. It is non-negotiable. Without the roof, everything you built in stage 1 and stage 2 is exposed. UV light sterilizes the top inch of soil, wind strips moisture, rain hammers structure flat. Your biological workforce retreats deeper, away from the root zone, and the sequence collapses. With the roof in place, you create a self-regulating microclimate at soil level. The temperature swings narrow, the moisture stays constant, the biology thrives, and the mineral cycling you started in stage 2 never stops. I have seen beds that were amended using this 3-stage sequence 3 years ago that still outperform beds that receive fresh synthetic fertilizer every spring. Not because of some miracle product, because the system is intact, the sequence was honored. Biology, minerals, protection, wake, fuel, roof. If you've been gardening for any length of time, there's a feeling settling in right now, and I want to name it because it matters. It's the sickening realization that every bag of compost you mixed with bone meal and wood ash and spread in a single afternoon was working against itself. That the soil you thought you were feeding was actually choking, not because you used bad products, because you used them in the wrong order. And that's not your fault. You followed the instructions, you read the back of the bag, you watched the videos that told you to amend your soil like it was one single action, one single step, one cheerful Saturday afternoon project. Nobody told you about the sequence because the sequence eliminates the need for the product. And you cannot build a $14 billion industry on a method that costs nothing. The information wasn't hidden in a vault. It was hidden in plain sight, buried under marketing language, drowned out by product recommendations, made to feel like something only advanced gardeners would understand, but it's not advanced. A forest does it automatically, a prairie does it in its sleep. Every functioning ecosystem on this planet runs this exact sequence without a single human intervening. What doesn't generate recurring income isn't taught. But here is where the power shifts, because now you know, and what you know changes everything. You don't need a new product. You don't need a soil test kit. You don't need a pH meter or a bag of micronutrients with a label you can't pronounce. You need a change in behavior. Wake the biology, load the minerals, put the roof on. 3 stages. Free, permanent. Let me be blunt about what just happened here. I just handed you a method that makes fertilizer bags obsolete. Not by replacing them with some other product, by eliminating the need entirely, by changing the order of operations, so your soil does the work that billion-dollar companies have been charging you to do badly. The cocktail method is their business model. The sequence is your escape hatch. You have a choice. You can keep mixing everything into a wheelbarrow and hoping this is the year it finally works. Or you can honor the sequence that forests have been running for 100,000 years. The sequence that feeds every wild ecosystem on this planet without a single input from a factory. Biology first, minerals second, protection third, wake, fuel, roof. No new purchases, no subscription boxes, no pH adjusting liquids in bottles with labels designed to make you feel like you need a chemistry degree. Just a change in sequence that makes the entire fertilizer aisle irrelevant. The method survives. It has always survived. It runs beneath every forest floor and every undisturbed meadow on the planet. What you do with it now is yours. One path leads back to the aisle, the bags, the blends, the dependency that resets every spring. The other path leads to the sequence, the ancient order that turns dead dirt into living ground and never asks you to buy anything again. Chaos is expensive, order is free, and the soil already knows which one works. Nature never needed a formula, it needed a sequence, and now, so do you. If this episode cracked something open for you, subscribe to Beneath the Roots and hit the bell. Share this with the gardener in your life who's still dumping everything in at once. Every like, every share pushes this knowledge past the algorithm that buries it. The next root goes deeper soon.